We start this programming today with a special announcement. Dallas, Texas, we're coming for you!
Yes.
We are so excited. We have a live show on Thursday, October 19th at the Texas Theater. The doors are at 7. The show is at 8.
There are general admission and VIP tickets still available. VIP gets you a signed poster and access to our post-show Q&A. And
my favorite part.
Those Q&As
so
get
fun.
kind of ruckus.
They get so buck. We're all wasted by the end.
It's so fun. And
We tell all.
we definitely tell all. There have been proposals.
They are not recorded.
Yeah, the venue staff are always like, what is happening? So anyway, splurge for the VIP ticket if you're so inclined. And you can get yours now at wineandcrimepodcast.com. Go check it out. Dallas, we're going to be there soon, baby.
We'll see you on October 19th.
We'll see you there.
Wine and Crime contains graphic and explicit content which may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Woo!
Yeah.
Bonorama!
Amanda's in her Bonorama shirt.
My favorite. It's from a trombone festival.
Love it.
Where did you get that?
My niece plays trombone, and she was in a festival.
Your 8-year-old niece?
No, it's one of the Finkenauer nieces.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And when Bobby, my brother-in-law, attended his lovely child's trombone Bonorama, they had these shirts, and he gave me one, and the back has like a nude angel, like winged angel with like ripped abs. Here, I'll show you. It's not to be believed.
Child's trombone festival.
What on earth?
It's like a Ken doll.
It's like Gabriel's horn.
Yeah, it's Gabriel.
It's Gabriel.
Jesus
without
Christ.
any junk.
Yeah, no, it's Ken doll. It's just smooth.
It's child appropriate.
I'm fucking obsessed with it. I wear it all the time. I can't believe I haven't talked about my favorite shirt on this show before. But
I think you have.
What a treat.
It just
You're
shocks
welcome.
me every time.
Mhm.
Wow.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, great.
Yeah.
We know
Cool.
who Amanda is.
Yeah. Oh, I'm Kenyan. I recently leaned into the fact that I pretty much only ever wear black, even though I have other shit in my closet.
Mhm.
And I just bought a whole bunch more black clothes.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm Lucy. I'm wearing pink today.
I love it. Is
You're
that
like
the shirt
a
we
whole
got
new
in
person,
New York
pregnant.
when we went shopping in New York at that one store where your mom gets all of her slacks?
No, I got this at the Gap.
Okay.
Close though, but yeah,
is that store?
open
Where does
button-up
Melinda
shirt.
get all her slacks?
Yeah, what was that store where Melinda gets her slacks?
Quilo,
Uniqlo?
Uniqlo.
Unicorn.
Yep,
Chulo.
Uniqlo.
Culo.
Chipotle.
Yum. I had Chipotle the other day. It was so good.
There's
I was watching.
huge spider right outside my window. It's disgusting.
I was watching old episodes of Queer Eye from like season 1 and season 2 and just sobbing into a burrito bowl. And I'm like nowhere near getting my period. I'm like a good 2 weeks out. Like it was not menstrual.
Yeah,
You don't
It
need
was
to
just
be
natural.
hormonal to weep at
Right.
Queer Eye.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The power that they wield over
The
our
episode-
emotional states.
When they're like in Atlanta and they go and help the woman like finish the community center for her church, and like Bobby has all these really complex feelings because he experienced so much religious trauma as a young gay man, and she just like loves and accepts him, and her son is gay, and she like opens up to her whole church community about how proud she is I'm gonna cry again of her gay son. I was losing it. I can't believe I didn't choke to death because I was just crying and eating like rice and beans. It was so amazing.
Have I told you
beautiful.
guys about what I was in Palm Springs with my mom and my sister a couple years ago. And Palm Springs, California, shit's legal. And my mom's she's found a new life as a big fan of gummies.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not new. It's just revived from the old days.
No, she never liked it until it was legal in California.
New
That
lease
shocks
on life.
me. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So we were in an Airbnb and they had like a TV and a fireplace and we had just gotten out of the hot tub and we were going to watch an episode of Queer Eye before we went to bed. And I thought my mom was paying attention like 3/4 of the way through.
Are they gay?
Karamo or someone. It wasn't Karamo. It was the British guy.
Oh, Tan.
He's like talking to the sister of the person they're reviving, fixing,
Rehabbing.
and none of these words are right, but you know. And so it's like Tan and a woman, and they're like sitting in a tree, and all having like the heartfelt moment. My mom goes, "Aw, do they get married?"
Yes.
Like, have you been fucking paying any attention? That's amazing.
Aren't they a beautiful couple?
Oh, they look so good together.
They're so happy.
Mom.
I love that. That's fucking funny as shit.
All right. Well, speaking of not following the plot.
Oh, did you misunderstand the assignment this week?
No. I just meant that
We've
we were
not been following.
really off the rails.
Well, always.
So, non sequitur, we are continuing Hog Girl Summer with
Hot girl summer!
we really do need t-shirts. The problem is by the time we get them, it'll be like January.
Yeah.
Next summer.
Maybe next summer, and maybe on like a pre-order situation, so we don't end up with an influx of Hog Girl Summer merch that then we cannot sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we'll
if you
talk about
really
it off
want
air.
it, yeah.
But yeah, make your voices heard if you really want Hog Girl Summer, because I do.
Yeah, we really want it.
And they won't listen to me anymore after the A2 Bananas fanny packs. Okay.
That is so not true. It's just partially true.
Okay, so we're continuing Hog Girl Summer with a gal's pick. We have selected the topic of Alaska crimes.
Which I cannot believe we haven't done.
We've definitely done some of the big name cases
yeah.
already on other episodes.
The guy who hunts the women.
Oh, yeah. From
and
the
Israel
plane.
Keys.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done some of the heavy hitters. So hopefully we'll have a couple that are lesser known Alaska cases in this episode.
Weird.
Mine's weird too.
Great.
So yeah, Amanda, let's get right to it. What's our wine crime pairing for Alaska crimes?
The viticultural region of Alaska shockingly does not lend itself well to grape production. So finding Alaskan wine was just not a thing that I was even going to attempt to do. But I do have this beautiful bottle of Merlot that felt applicable, at least to my case, which very much relies on the setting of like watershed kind of points of passage, trade, trapping, being right on like,
trade route.
Yeah, Alaska has all of these, massive intersections of where land meets water and so many different kinds of like water. They have ocean, they have river, they have lakes, they have glacier, they have all kinds of shit. So I have this bottle in my cabinet, the Point de Passage Merlot, and just this gray, cold
Ooh.
That does fit.
ocean label really
like
called
that.
to me.
Yeah.
Okay. She's a beaut. It's
Lapping
a 2020.
ocean waves.
Yeah. It's a 2020 Merlot. It's 100% Merlot, not a blend. And I know that a lot of people think Merlot is like lowbrow or chuggy or whatever. When you get a good fucking chuggy.
I love Merlot.
Stupid word.
I actually think chuggy is one of the greatest words, and I'm going to tell you why. because chuggy for me encapsulates exactly what the square tip white French manicure is.
Yeah.
Like, I often will look at something and be like, oh, that's like the square, like the Teresa Caputo, whatever.
The nails that we got done
for
before
high school dances.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That I'm like, oh, that's the like white square French manicure of things. And then the word chuggy came out and I was like, oh,
More
that's
succinct.
that's the word I've been looking for.
I'm
Anyways,
still not clear on what it means. Doesn't it just mean like millennial shit?
it's like elder millennial,
Basic.
very, very basic, like fucking
Fringe.
wood wash signs with fucking live, laugh, love on them, squared off giant fucking nails and white tipped manicures, badly
Okay.
bleached hair,
Chunky highlight.
chunky highlights, Uggs, but like on people over 40, which that'll be me. But whatever.
Juicy sweatpants.
No, that would
No.
be too cool. That'd be too hip. This is not. This is like millennial ma'am.
Yeah.
Like washed wood
mom,
barn sheep.
basic. Yeah.
Basic bitch,
The
elder
person
millennial
we're all
mom.
thinking of.
Listen, no one's saying it, and no one's thinking it.
We're all thinking it.
Anyway, this is 100% Merlot. This is a French Merlot, so it's going to be like very classic, very traditional. And what I was getting to is that people kind of look down on Merlot, but like when it's good, it's so
Merlot.
fucking good. It's so good. It's often in blends, and it can be kind of hard to find like a really good 100% Merlot, but you'll get that. When you get it right, it's like that velvety mouthfeel. That it's not too inundated with like tannins, so it's got a nice smooth finish. It's a little less dry. It's a little on the juicier side, but like that's so awesome to pair with rich foods. I'm thinking like cheesecake, baby. Lucy's favorite.
I'm thinking cheesecake too.
You're always thinking cheesecake because you're the most pregnant person I know. But yeah, this is a 2020. She's a popper.
It's the rest of my cookies.
14.6% ABV, so it's not going to like knock you on your ass, but it still packs a little punchy. And I pre-prepped a little with my XOXO, the Wine and Crime Gals Iridescent Wine Key. And we're going to give it a little pop-a-lop.
Love it.
Here we go.
Oh,
Oh,
that was a
Bonerama.
that was a nice pop.
Nice pap.
I feel like
and
it's
nice,
been a
super
minute
cute.
since we had such a nice pap.
I know. I feel like I've been drinking a lot of canned beverages and smoking a lot of weed recently.
Yeah.
But now that I feel better and I'm not like blasted on cough medicine, I'm ready for some good fucking wine, baby.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I had a hefty pour of red wine last night when we did our August
saw it.
happy hour.
I
And
was jealous.
It felt great.
Yeah, it looked great. You looked very like chic
Oh,
with
all
your
right.
huge glass of red wine, just in your live stream, taking on the world, a woman of culture.
Sure.
While I drank sparkling water, ate a gummy, and laughed my ass off at Lucy trying to discreetly eat bites of like 50 cookies.
There was only one cookie. I just ate it for a really long
Okay,
time.
it seemed like multiple cookies, but this tracks.
All right,
Anyway,
well, cheers.
cheers, babes. This smells so
Cheers.
fucking good. I'm so excited.
All right. Well, Lucy, what is our background and maybe psych for Alaska crimes?
There's no psych. I really don't know where my bones went. Anyway, there's no psych. Whatever.
This is fucking
Alaska.
delicious, by the way. Sorry,
Sometimes
Lucy.
red wine sounds good.
Fall.
You can have a little for the antioxidants.
Yeah.
Be good
It's
for
the
baby.
baby.
For Kermit.
Okay, Alaska is the 49th U.S. state on the northwest extremity of North America, bordering British Columbia and Yukon in Canada. I know nothing about Canada. Wait, is Yukon a province?
It's like a territory, right?
Right? I always have to look at the map.
Who knows? I know it's up there.
I know British Columbia is on one side.
And Quebec is on the other.
Yep.
And then Toronto is somewhere on the
I
east.
know-
City.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
yep.
it's there.
I know them all in order, the provinces, but then there's like shit above it that we never talk about.
Yeah, because it's
The
just
Northwest
wilderness.
Territories.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like Yukon is a territory, not a province. But I
It
could
must
be wrong.
be.
Yes, it is. I'm looking at the map, and it looks like the Yukon Territory
Perennials,
is
bitch!
above British Columbia, and it touches Alaska, and then it touches the Northern Territories.
Do you need like a visa to go from Alaska into
No.
the Yukon?
I think it's just very sparsely populated.
Right,
Well, it
because it's
is.
like such a brutal wilderness.
Way up there.
All of
That's
that
probably
shit
why it's not a
is-
province, because it's not really like populated in the same way.
Yeah, right.
Would that be why it's not a province?
That would be my
It
guess.
might have something to do with First Peoples and Inuit
True.
peoples and territory, but I do think it is part of Canada. The Canadians listening are screaming right now.
And we don't want your emails. We
Don't
don't care about Canada.
I won't remember
Just kidding,
any
we
of
love
it
Canada.
anyway. And I always forget about Manitoba, and it's right above Minnesota, and I forget about it.
Ontario's right above Minnesota.
They both are.
I love Vancouver.
Ontario's where we had our issue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, okay. Yukon and British Columbia to the east, and it also shares a western maritime border with the Bering Strait, in the Bering Strait with Russia's Chukotka Autonomous Okrug,
Okay.
which I Googled Okrug, and it basically means district.
Okay.
It's very Soviet. I don't like it.
Yep.
The Arctic lies to the north, as in the Arctic Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean lies to the south. Alaska is the largest enclave in the world, and by enclave, it just means like a territory or a state that's surrounded by a different territory or state.
Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't have any land border with other U.S. states.
Yep.
Got it.
It is by far the largest U.S. state, bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined.
Whoa.
That's crazy. to
She
think
is
about.
large.
I feel like we get so, and I mean, I know this to be true, but we get so like duped by maps
Yeah.
because they do not properly represent scale.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people think Alaska is like by Hawaii.
Right.
Because they're
Because
always
of the
close to
map.
each other.
Yeah. I didn't think that, but the
Right.
size is not translated on a US map at all.
No.
Because it looks about the same size as Texas on just a regular US map.
Because of
It's really
perspective.
hard to find a map that has accurate sizes of any
Yep.
area of the
Proper
world.
scale.
There's a whole episode of The West Wing about this.
There is.
How maps are racist.
Yep. It's
I took
fucking
a
true.
whole semester in college about maps. Very boring class, but I learned a lot. So it's bigger than those three combined. It's the most sparsely populated state in the United States, but by far more populated than northern Canada, Yukon, northern whatever,
Sure.
and also Greenland.
Oh, okay.
So there's just not a lot of people up there.
Yeah.
Like your uncle.
Yes, they live in Fairbanks. The capital is Juneau, and the most populous city is Anchorage. Approximately half of Alaska's residents live within the Anchorage metropolitan area.
Wow. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's easy to get to. Like that's where the airport is.
Yep.
It's really hard to get pretty much anywhere else. Actually, one of my fun facts is at the end, Juneau is only accessible by airplane
Yeah.
or boat. You can't drive there. But it's the capital.
That's so odd.
That's bizarre.
You'd think that they'd switch it up maybe and have Anchorage become the capital once it became the more like accessible, populated part. But that's
there
not
are
how
a
it
lot
works.
of weird capital choices.
Well, Sitka used to be the capital of Alaska, so they've already changed it once. Maybe they can only change it.
Once
it's like
every
your-
500 years.
It's like your Instagram handle. You can only change it so many times. The name Alaska comes from the Russian word Alyaska, which was introduced in during the Russian colonial period, which I'm about to get to, and means the object towards which the action of the sea is directed.
Okay. Okay, Russia.
Everything about what the Russians did is so fucking lame in my segment and in like world history.
Did you know that Juneau is further south than Anchorage? I was assuming that.
Isn't it on like the little leg that comes out?
Yeah. Huh.
The leg, that sexy little leg.
Yeah.
Little leg.
Interesting. Okay.
The reason why it's the capital might have something to do with the commerce
Probably.
and accessibility, even though like
Now it's less
maritime
accessible.
accessibility, not car accessibility. I don't know. According to the History Channel, the first people migrated to Alaska around 15,000 years ago during the Ice Age via a frozen land bridge known as Beringia, the Bering
Fucking
Land
cool.
Bridge, which extended from Siberia to eastern Alaska. The first permanent settlements in Alaska date to about 4,000 years ago. So Russians first came into contact with indigenous people in the mid-1700s. In 1741, Vitus Jonasson Bering.
Your
this
deep
guy.
breath. You're breaking a sweat trying to pronounce this.
I've eaten so many cookies. I'm out of breath.
Talking hurts because of all the cookies you've eaten. I love that for you.
Also, my lungs are smashed. They're small.
It's true. All
Just
your
wait.
organs.
I know. Don't just wait me. I know. So this guy and his crew sailed between Russia and North America for Russian Tsar Peter the Great. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, he was fine. Not.
They became the first Europeans to explore parts of Alaska. In 1784, Grigory Shelekhov created the first Russian settlement on Kodiak Island. In 1794, Catherine the Great sent the first Russian Orthodox monks to Kodiak, and they created a Russian Orthodox community that to this day remains very vibrant.
Oh, okay.
That would be the kind of nonfiction that I feel like Kenyon would be super fucking into.
Absolutely.
1000%. Yep.
That's your vibe.
I
Absolutely.
feel like she's looking up flights to Kodiak, Alaska, as we speak.
I want to read a story, or more accurately, a nonfiction
audiobook.
an audiobook about the first Russian Orthodox monks to make it to Kodiak.
That would be
Alaska.
fascinating. Yeah.
I would read that.
Yeah, you would.
You'd read the shit out of that.
I would. I've already read a lot about Catherine the Great, so it's time to
It's
move
just
on.
an extension.
Yeah.
Go east, young woman. While some Alaskans were barely impacted by their presence, the Russians' presence, some were taken hostage and forced to hunt. Like many other instances of colonization, many folks converted to new religions. So in this case, many were converted by the Russian Orthodox Church. So lots of Russian Orthodox shit up there.
Well, they're neighbors. I can see Russia from my house.
She can't, though.
Super can't.
She really can't.
Defo can't.
Multiple fur trading operations were also established in Alaska, including those started by the Russian, British, and American fur traders. They hunted beaver, river otter, fox, bear, lynx, wolves, wolverines, which I didn't know until recently were an actual animal
A
and
real
not
thing.
They're like land
a
narwhals.
cryptid.
They do not fuck around either. And the Wolverine
They're
will
scary.
fuck you up. They're cute as shit, but they will fuck you up, just like those honey badger things.
Oh, honey badgers.
Can I
Telling
tell
ya.
you an unhinged thing that I did recently?
Always. Always.
So I was on a flight and we landed, and then it took a really long time for us to get to our gate after we landed. And so I had gotten bumped up. So I was in first class. No big deal. So there was a guy one row in front of me, and he was just talking nonstop to the flight attendant. And he was talking about some trip that he was going to go on and whatever. And to
Well,
Montana.
people in first class don't shut the fuck up.
They love
know.
talking to the flight attendants.
They love
Yeah.
talking. The last time I got bumped up to first class, the guy next to me wouldn't shut up
Yeah, I put
about
my
why I was
headphones
getting
on-
a Virgin Bloody Mary.
I put my headphones on now before getting on the plane, and that has helped me.
Tried.
And then I
Didn't work.
really look just like a real cunt. I'm just like,
Yeah, I need to work on. Anyway,
You
I
gotta
was
boost
not-
your cunt face.
He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the flight attendant, but I had forgotten my headphones, so that's on me. So I just was listening to this man talk. And he was talking about this trip and how he was going to some remote area, I think in Montana, and how his wife was afraid of bear attacks and and he had to buy bear spray. And who would have thought? Like, and he
Anyone who's ever been to Montana, like they greet you at the border and go, "Do you have bear spray?"
And as I was passing him leaving the plane, I just went, I know someone who survived a bear attack. I don't know if that makes you more or less nervous. And then I just walked away.
In the Boundary Waters, Alex Messenger, he wrote a book about it.
I know.
Threw his camera at its nose. We went to
What?
high school with him.
Yeah.
Did you not know this?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
Alex
survived a
Messenger.
bear attack.
Got attacked
Alex
by a bear.
Messenger.
Who gets attacked by a bear?
Yeah, it was
really
bad.
attacked.
He had to be like airlifted. Like it was bad. Like almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
And now he's got like two beautiful
He
kids.
wrote a book.
You wrote a book?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
I don't know.
If I had
I could
hands
write a book if I
left.
survived a bear attack. But yeah, he was out photographing on a Boundary Waters trip, and he fucking hit the bear on the snoot with his camera.
Yeah.
And it like kept coming back for him, and then he was like too fucked up to like walk to camp, so he's just kind of
Did he
like.
play dead and it worked?
I think he did, yeah. But then he had to kind of just wait
But he
for
was
someone to
bald
be
a little
like,
bit.
"Oh, he's been gone for a really long time."
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great situation, but he's fine now.
So anyway, I kind of wanted to scare that man and get him to
Yes.
shut up a little bit. So that's what I said. And then I just did not engage further. Just
Proud of you.
got out of there quick.
Clean release.
Yeah.
Clean release. Well done. Good dismount.
Thanks.
Muskrat, mink, and squirrel.
You're fine.
Oh my god. Okay.
Drama.
While Russia eventually created trading treaties with its competition, their widespread trapping almost led to the extinction of multiple species. Go figure. They just don't know when to quit.
Including indigenous communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too far into that.
Well,
Also,
true.
while the Russians controlled parts of the area, they called it Russian America,
cute.
which just speaks to Soviet creativity.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, whatever. According to the Department of State's Office of the Historian, which is where I want to work, the Alaska Purchase happened in 1867 and marked the end of Russian efforts to expand trade and settlements all the way to the Pacific coast. Oh, wait. To the Pacific coast, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's not that far since it's pretty much
I was
on
thinking the
Pacific
Atlantic
coast.
coast.
Right.
Okay.
All the way right here.
All the way where it is.
55 miles.
Where it's
55
already
Everything the light
at.
touches, Simba.
Russia offered to sell Alaska to the U.S. in 1859 because they thought that the U.S. would offset the designs of Russia's greatest rival, Great Britain. So they were like, oh, well, obviously America hates Great Britain, so we might as well sell them this and they'll be on our side. Okay.
Yeah. You can't project 100 years into the future. You just don't know.
The purchase didn't immediately happen and was delayed by the Civil War. On March 30th, 1867, Secretary of State William Seward, remember that name, agreed to a proposal from the Russian minister in Washington, Edward Steckel, to purchase Alaska for
few shekels.
$7.2 million.
My God.
According
Time
to
money converter, baby.
Kenyon's Lover, Time Money Converter,
Woo!
7.2 million in 1867 would be equivalent to over $148 million today.
That still seems low.
Yeah.
Considering
well, they
how
didn't know
big it
that
is.
it had oil yet.
Sure.
Or gold.
Right.
It didn't have that much gold, though.
A lot of gold.
Yeah, but it
The real
wasn't.
question is, why did we want it? Just
I don't know.
beavers? Beaver hats?
Beavers and dicks.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe we
Okay.
just didn't want Russia to have it.
Probably.
Or it was really cheap. It was a good deal.
Yeah.
The Senate approved the Treaty of Purchase on April 9th. President Andrew Johnson signed the treaty on May 28th, and the official transfer happened on October 18th, 1867. So that means that Alaska was a U.S. territory.
It's so crazy that Alaska became like a state in the U.S. barely 50 years before my grandmother was born.
No, it was a territory, not a state.
Well, whatever. It became part of the United States in some fashion.
Yeah.
That's still wild to me.
Yes.
Your
It
grandma
became a
was hella
the first
old
person,
by the time
yeah.
it became a state.
Sure.
It became a state in 1959.
That's wild.
So this purchase became essential to the U.S.'s rise as a great power in the Asia-Pacific region because it ensured the United States access to the Pacific Northern Rim. So maybe that's why they wanted it, because
Okay.
Russia already had that,
Okay.
but we didn't.
Like the film Pacific Rim with the robot aliens and Idris Elba, I think. It's fine. Guys,
like
just
that.
relax.
Just like that.
Good job, Amanda.
So, like, they obtained Russia or Alaska as a territory. They didn't really pay any attention to it for like 30 years or so. And then in 1884, the U.S. constituted a civil government as a way to impose U.S. mining laws because there were people going up there to mine. And people were like, why the fuck did we buy this? It's like dark half the year. At that point, they didn't know how much shit was up there. So its nickname was Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox. Just because people were like, what a waste of $7 million. Those skeptics were put to shame when a major gold deposit was discovered in the Yukon in 1896, and Alaska became the gateway to the Klondike gold fields.
That's why it's Yukon Cornelius in the Christmas show. It's fine.
I should amend what I said earlier. Yes, obviously there was gold there, but like, and we'll get to this a little in my case. The same shit happened in California when people heard about like one area that had a gold reserve.
Yeah.
Then everyone tried to go and strike gold. And then it was like, they're trying to find it in places where it definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oops, no gold.
Yeah. Or not enough gold to go around for sure.
There's a photo on the drive, which will be on the blog, of like a huge line of gold seekers and prospectors and miners climbing up this specific pass that goes like into the passage to the Yukon where the gold is.
That's wild. They look like little ants.
Look at those fucking people.
That's bonkers. In the snow.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yep. So the strategic importance of Alaska was recognized during World War II. According to the National Park Service, the only World War II battle fought on U.S. soil occurred in Alaska. So it was like on one of those islands between the U.S. and Japan.
Okay, that's like a good trivia tidbit.
There were also Russian pilots who trained in Fairbanks. There was also some sort of deal that the U.S. had with the Soviets where they would transport planes up to Alaska. Then the Soviets would pick them up to fight the Germans at their eastern front. Also, Japanese forces... Oh, yeah. Well, this is the battle. The battle. Japanese forces occupied 2 Aleutian Islands for more than a year. In 1939, Congress established the Panama, Hawaii, Alaska Defense Triangle to protect America's western coast. Due to this, Alaska saw the construction of naval bases at Sitka, Dutch Harbor, and Kodiak Islands. Finally, all of her hard work paid off, and Alaska officially became a U.S. state on January 3rd, 1959.
That's wild. That was so recent.
My dad was 3.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we like to talk about state flags, and Alaska
Yes, we
has
do.
a very cool story about their state flag. John Ben Benson Jr., also known as Benny Benson.
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Oh, Benny Benson.
Benny Benson was born in Chignik on October 12th, 1913. At age 3, Benny, his older sister, and his younger brother lost their mother to pneumonia, and they lost their house to a fire.
This is like the start of a Dollop episode. Okay. Yep.
Sad. Under these circumstances, the father couldn't take care of all of them. So he split up the family, sending Benny and his brother to one orphanage in Unalaska and his sister to Oregon. The orphanage in Unalaska later moved to a larger facility with a more central location in Seward.
Is Unalaska a place?
It's a town in Alaska.
Unalaska, Alaska?
Yes.
Clev, love it.
The name
No notes.
the name is derived from the native indigenous people's name for Alaska.
So
Okay.
definitely not the same as English
It's not like
on
anti-Alaska.
not Alaska. Yeah,
Got
okay.
it. Got it.
Not the same.
Still, right. Got it.
Confusing. Funny.
Easy mistake to make as
Confusing
people
to our
who-
ears.
Yes.
Yep.
Unalaska. In 1926, Territorial Governor George Parks was fighting for statehood, because again, it wasn't a state until like 30-some years later,
Sure.
and was convinced after a trip to Washington, D.C. that Alaska should have its own flag, damn it, because that would
Hell yeah.
constitute it being a state. So he came back and convinced the Alaska American Legion to hold a contest open to all Alaskan children, grades 7 through 12, to design a flag for the state.
Yeah, they should have gotten the younger grades involved. See what
you imagine?
Let's get
kindergartners.
preschool in there.
Yeah.
Finger paint the flag.
Hey, they could come up with something great.
They could.
Like that weird I voted sticker that we've talked about. Mm-hmm. It's just like that
Yeah.
crab thing.
It's so weird. It's like a monster.
It's so
I
like
fucking
red
love
eyes.
it. Yes, it's brilliant. It's the only sticker I want for every election.
So they had like local contests and then they narrowed it down and the best 10 designs were sent on to Juneau. The contest winner was Benny Benson. Benny! At the time, a 7th grader at the Territorial School in Seward. So
Cute.
yeah. His design had 8 stars to represent the Big Dipper, placed on a blue background to represent the sky. So there's a picture of him holding his little 13-year-old Benny holding his
Peanut.
flag.
Oh, he's got
That's
such
fucking
a cute little
adorable.
outfit on.
I know.
This little sweater with a tie. I can't.
The flag was a unanimous winner by the panel of judges. By May 1927, the flag was adopted by the 2 houses of the territorial legislature. It was flown for the first time on July 9th, 1927, when he was 13 years old.
Oh my God.
During the ceremony, Benny was awarded a watch with the flag emblem and a $1,000 education scholarship.
That's a big scholarship back then.
Hell yeah.
So after graduation, he used his scholarship to earn a degree in diesel engine repair, I think in Oregon, and later came back to Alaska and became an airplane mechanic.
Nice.
In the mid-1950s, he was briefly reunited with his long-lost sister.
Oh, that's right, because the family was separated. Oh my God. But did she die? What do you mean? Why was it brief? Who
She
died?
did die right after that. I cut that part. It
Oh
was sad.
God. Well, you said briefly. You did. She said briefly.
Maybe it was just a lunch. I don't know.
No. I knew there was a story there.
They
Don't
got
try.
coffee. She's busy.
Don't try to slip that past me, bitch. Briefly.
Sniffed out that trauma.
I knew. Trauma.
Trauma?
Well, what
I
I also
knew.
cut is that his brother was there, and his brother and his sister both died like right after that.
Well,
Of
glad I
what?
pulled that information out because
Is
it's
there
pertinent.
another fire?
Benny himself passed away from a heart attack in 1972 at the age of 58. But his flag remains honestly the most attractive flag of all the states. So
Yeah.
excellent job, Benny Benson.
We should let kids design all of the state flags because they would undoubtedly do a
Crushed.
better job than
Yeah.
what we currently have.
But
Well,
if
and
they
it's like-
all sucked, then someone would need to step in.
But I just feel like kids, well, okay, no. As I was getting ready to say it, I realized it's not true. I'm like, kids aren't trying to cram too much into one picture. But I mean, yes, usually they are. But I think that was the genius of this flag.
So
is its
simple.
Simplicity.
Right.
And how can you go wrong with like yellow and navy blue?
Yeah, and the Big Dipper. Gorgeous. Get out of here.
Gorgeous. Okay, so I have some fun facts about Alaska for us.
ELESKE.
West Virginia. The state sport of Alaska is dog mushing. a sport or transport method powered by dogs. It's going to the dogs.
It's gone.
That
to the
would be
dog.
very cool to like do as a tourist one time.
I have
I'm
been on
sure
a
you
dog
can.
sled one time in Minnesota, and it was brief, but it was really fun.
Why was it brief?
Why was it brief? Because it was on a little track. Because all the dogs died shortly, like during the run. It was wild.
Why was it
No, it was like it was a really small track at a wolf sanctuary. No trauma to sniff there, except for probably the wolves and the dogs.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh, dog mushing was once the primary mode of transportation in most of Alaska. The Iditarod Trail sled dog race is the state's largest sporting event.
Yeah,
So
they
cool.
still do that. It looks so cool.
That would be very cool to just observe,
Be at the end
not
of.
ever be in.
Be at the end of in a warming house with
Yeah.
a hot cocoa.
Cocoa.
Yeah.
I'm in
I'll
it
be in
for-
the chalet.
I'm in
With
it
cream.
for the cocoa. Honestly,
Yep.
just the clothing. Like you get to go
Yep.
shopping.
The mucklucks.
Yeah.
I'll
The
go
very
out for
specific sweaters.
45, 50 minutes just
Max.
to get cold so that
Yeah.
it feels better when you're sitting by the fire.
Yep, so you get the
rosy
cute red
cheeks.
cheeks. Yep.
Yeah.
mhm.
Little braided hair and then like
Yep.
a little hat.
A little
And then when you're
hat.
by the fire, you're like all tingly from
Yeah.
warming up. But yeah, just long enough. Get in the hot
just
tub.
long enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we're ready. We're ready to go to Alaska.
We're ready for the Iditarod.
We're ready for the. I've been training my whole life
Die
for
on
this.
it.
Been training my whole life for this cozy storybook version.
I'll pick up the last half mile. It's a relay,
Not-
right?
That is so
That's
long.
a lot. With the
Yeah,
wind chill,
no
I don't
fucking
want
way.
to be moving.
Half mile.
A half mile, you're being towed by dogs.
No, I've done
There's
it. It's
wind. It
it would take 10 minutes.
No, it would not. Mm-mm.
quarter mile.
You don't
Okay.
know the conditions.
To each her own.
You
It's
know
fine.
nothing of the Iditarod. Don't pretend you
You're
do.
not ready.
You are not.
You're
You've
not
not
ready.
been training. You're not.
Some of
ready.
us have not been working on our Iditarod bodies, and it shows.
It shows. As someone who is built like a seal, I have been working on my Iditarod body, and I am fucking ready, baby. Let's go.
My Iditarod bod.
Iditarod bod.
Iditarod, Bob. I'm so ready for summer to be over.
Yeah, I'm also. It's gonna be 100 degrees here this week.
It's
like
like get really
all
hot
week.
here. I know.
Like what?
Last night was beautiful. Full moon, 60
It was so
degrees.
gorgeous. It was so perfect. Now they're fucking ruining it. Thanks, Republicans. I blame you.
Okay. Alaska is approximately 55 miles from Russia, but there is one point where you can see Russia from the US, but it's because there are two islands that are really close to each other.
And that is
It's not where fucking Sarah Palin lives.
No.
Sure isn't.
At more than 19%, Alaska has a more concentrated indigenous population than any other state. So they have the Aleuts, the Inupiat, the Utes, the Athabascans, the Tlingit, and the Haida peoples. And they make up the major native groups. Moose, caribou, and bears killed by cars in Alaska are considered property of the state. So you have to report it. And also, when you do report that roadkill, those carcasses are picked up and butchered by volunteers and distributed as food to charity organizations.
Oh,
That's fucking cool. Here, the only
they're
time.
fucking huge.
Yeah, they're massive. You have to report, I think, anywhere in the U.S. if you hit or in some way maim or kill a bald eagle.
Oh, yes.
And someone near my old apartment in Northeast Minneapolis hit a bald eagle with their truck
In Minneapolis.
on Broadway Avenue Northeast.
And they're
no.
like, oh, I have to call the parks
And
department.
it died, and they pulled over right by like that little park by my old apartment, and they had to get on the horn with the DNR and wait for someone to come out and make sure that like their story added up.
Yeah.
and then take the
Sure you weren't bald eagle hunting in
and also that
Northeast?
you weren't taking any feathers or anything because
Yeah.
you can't do any of that. So they had to stay put. Like it was a whole
No
thing.
souvenirs.
See if it was like banded.
Yep, I walked my dog so much that afternoon because I was so curious. I was so the nosy neighbor. I was like, "Oh, you murdered this bald eagle? Let me see how this pans out."
Burke was like, I don't want to go.
I'm so tired. Callie's like, "Let's go."
Let's
Yeah,
look at it
but-
again.
It makes
This
sense.
is my lucky day.
It's the best day of my life. It makes sense with the moose, though. That's a lot of good meat.
Oh, yeah. Plus, you can get really injured if you hit that with your car.
Oh yeah.
Well, also they just have to make sure people aren't, illegally hunting and just claiming that it was accidental roadkill.
Oh yeah, I hit it with my car. I'm taking all this meat.
Yeah.
Yep. So the summer weather in Alaska is better than a lot of people assume that it is, with average daytime temps ranging from the 60s to the 90s throughout the state. I've only been to Alaska once, and it was in July, but it was a gorgeous.
Wow. Okay.
It also doesn't really get dark in the summer, so we had to have blackout curtains.
I
want to
love
go
that.
so bad.
It's like the only cruise I would consider.
Yeah.
I consider Viking River cruises and
Yeah.
an Alaskan
Same.
cruise.
Yeah.
Be aware of how they dispose of their waste, because they can be quite destructive.
Okay. Well,
So-
then guess my honeymoon is canceled. Just kidding. That's not my honeymoon.
You're going to Australia. Calm down.
We're probably not, but it's fine.
By river.
Yeah.
You could go over the Bering Strait
Yep.
and then all the way down.
We're going around the world in 80 days in a hot air balloon, and I will not be dissuaded from that idea. Okay? Then we're going to do a quick Iditarod and then go home.
drop in for the Iditarod.
Real quick.
Do the
float
Iditarod
back
for
home.
your honeymoon.
Bill would
Be like,
be,
I'm ready to start training.
Bill would actually probably get into it.
He would.
I could see him getting really into
That
it.
man likes the gym.
But
And I
it
like
involves
dogs.
dogs.
So,
What if he tried it with cats?
Oh my God.
I did her
I'd be
cat.
so in. I did her cat.
That sounds bad.
I love
You need a lot of
It does
cats.
sound really bad, doesn't it?
Okay. This is unhinged.
So that said, Alaska holds the record for coldest temperatures in the U.S. A low of negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded on January 23rd, 1971. This took place at Prospect Creek, an isolated town just 31 miles away from the city of Coldfoot, which has a population of 150 people.
Really buried the lead with that one.
Well,
300 feet. Cold feet live in Coldfoot.
presumably.
Only 2 states have a population smaller than Alaska, and those are Vermont and Wyoming. I said you can't reach Juneau by road, so you have to get there from the rest of Alaska by plane or ferry. It's also the only state capital that can't be reached by road. Speaking of moose, there's a lot of moose-specific legislation in Alaska, including laws against pushing a moose from an airplane and giving a moose a beer.
I'm glad that those laws exist and
It's
am
just-
concerned that they have to exist.
Yeah, it's like every time I see a sign warning people not to do a certain very obviously stupid thing, I'm
There's
like,
a
what
story.
happened to require this?
Yeah. The plain one especially is concerning.
Also,
I'm
you gotta
gonna
just
need-
stay away from moose in general.
They're dangerous.
really dangerous.
Yeah.
They'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
And they're fast as fuck.
My cousins who live, my aunt and uncle and cousins who live there, one day the boys were snowboarding in the yard and they have a dog. I forgot the dog's name, but a bull moose came up and started charging the kids and they were strapped to their snowboards. They couldn't get
Yup.
away. And the dog scared the moose away, but it was
Thank God.
ready to
Kill
Yeah.
them.
That could have been really bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You could be down a couple cousins.
The state has more coastline than the other 49 states combined.
That's wild to think about.
In Barrow, Alaska, the longest night lasts for 67 days.
Cool.
In the summertime, they make up for it with 82 days of uninterrupted sunlight.
I want to experience that. I really do. Not the darkness, the sunlight.
67 days, I think, would start to make up for my sleep debt.
Right.
You're not sleeping the whole time. You could be.
You're
I
not.
would be.
Yeah, you're fucking not.
You're not. And because of their long summer days, I love this. Alaska is capable of producing some unusually oversized produce.
Oh,
Ooh.
funny. That's
Some
so
noti-
funny to think about.
I know. Some notable specimens that have been harvested in recent years include a 35-pound broccoli,
What? No
a
way.
65-pound cantaloupe, and a 138-pound cabbage.
Oh my God. They should have sent giant pumpkin or whatever.
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
going to say Goliath wishes.
Goliath. Their state fair must be lit.
Yeah.
Their ag building. I want to go to the Alaska State Fair.
That'd
After
be
the
really
Iditarod.
cool.
It would be so cool. I wonder if they have corn dogs.
2 different times of year, I think. But yeah.
corn ditarods.
Last one, about 1,700 miles south of the geographic North Pole lies the Fairbanks suburb of North Pole, Alaska.
Is that
The
where Santa
town-
lives?
The town's famous Santa Claus house gift shop is open year-round, and thousands of letters addressed to Santa are sent to this zip code every year. And
No way.
also, a real-life Santa Claus was even elected to city council.
I was kidding. Holy shit.
Isn't that adorbs?
That's so cute. I knew that there was like a place you could send physical letters to Santa. I didn't realize that was it, but that makes perfect sense.
It's just the post office in this town.
yeah. How fun.
I know.
Cute. North Pole, Alaska. That's
Oh my God,
cute.
making the most of it.
Yeah, but again, not the actual North Pole, but
Right.
Right.
cute. So those are my Alaska facts.
I love it. Well done. Alaska
Thanks.
sounds amazing. I totally want to go.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a cool trip.
Well, maybe if we get enough listeners in
Spread the
Anchorage,
word. All 4 listeners that
Yep.
we have in Alaska.
I
then
could
we
bribe-
could justify a live show.
I could bribe 4 people in Fairbanks.
All right. That's
you go.
4 more than I know in
All right.
Alaska.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
So,
All right.
down.
Quick word from our sponsors and then.
To the darkness,
Yes.
to the 80 days of night,
68 Days of Darkness.
Kenyon's 68 Days of Darkness podcast.
Absolutely. Care of is a subscription service that ships high quality, personalized vitamins, supplements, and powders conveniently to your door every month.
Oh, and they have a cute little quiz. We love a good quiz.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's fall. You might be shifting into a new routine. Maybe you're pregnant. Who knows? Maybe you're just taking more pills than normal.
Maybe you
But you
realize
know
that
what?
you need vitamin B12.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I love how my new vitamin and supplement routine is just making me feel. And Care of makes taking your vitamins on the go so convenient. They've got individual little daily packs that are perfect for travel, also perfect for just like putting out in an open area where you do not forget to take them.
Yeah. Next to the coffee maker, baby.
Yep, they also
Smart.
each pack has a little like prompt or question or quote. It's just my favorite part of it. They're also made with plant-based compostable film to help limit the impact on the environment without compromising on the quality and safety of their products. When you take that quiz and it tells you what vitamins they recommend, they like break it down for you.
Yeah, they tell you like not just what you should be taking, but like
Why?
how it's going to help you.
Very informative. So as your needs and goals change, Care of can help you adjust your routine to match. Their quiz can be retaken at any time to give you updated recommendations, and you can also adjust your habits and routine tracking in the app. They have an adorable little accompanying app. It just makes me feel great. It makes me feel like a real adult who has their stuff together.
Right?
So cute. So for 50% off your first Care of order, go to takecareof.com and enter code GALS50. Once again, for 50% off your first Care of order, go to takecareof.com and enter that code GALS50, GALS50, and treat your wellness.
Trade it.
Psyching herself up to bring us all down.
Oh yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
My case is it's weird. It's odd.
Okay.
Is it unsolved?
No.
Thank
but-
God, because I could not.
Yeah, but odd. Okay.
Okay.
So as a teen, Norman Butch Johnson, he
Hate it.
goes
Already
by
hate it.
Butch, which is a ridiculous name, moved with his family from California to Alaska in the late 1960s. It was the 60s. So they moved to Kiana, a small Inupiaq Eskimo village that was home to just 300 residents. Kiana is situated 30 miles north of the Arctic Circle, which kind of blew.
Wouldn't you be going back south?
Well, that's what I thought.
Wait a minute.
I'm very glad I'm not alone with that because that like blew my mind. And then
Very
I was like,
shocking.
I was like, I don't think that that's possible. And so I looked into it.
They would know.
Thank God.
And basically the Arctic Circle is a line. It's like the border of where the Arctic starts. It's not the whole area within the circle.
Oh. So
Okay.
it's the circumference.
Correct.
So you can, when you get to the nipple of the Arctic Circle, you're
That's
north of
the
the
North
Arctic
Pole.
Circle.
That's the North
Yeah.
Pole.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the start of the areola.
Got it. All right.
So they live within that areola.
Areola. Got it.
Yikes.
Okay. So yeah, but I'm glad I wasn't the only one to be like, that's not possible.
Thank
So
you
the-
for clearing that up.
Yeah.
The closest real town was Kotzebue, which had a whopping 1,700 residents at the time. And that was still some 57 miles away from Kiana.
Whew.
And
Remote.
the bigger, yeah, remote. And the bigger town's motto was Gateway to the Arctic.
Ooh.
So she up there.
I bet everyone rode snowmobiles.
Lots of
And dog
snowmobiles.
sleds.
Dag sleds.
The dog sleds don't come up in my case, which is very sad.
But we can just assume they're
It's
around.
assumed.
Yeah. So what would possibly compel someone to move from California to this soup's isolated spot?
Starting a new identity.
Well, Butch's father, Al Johnson, was a, quote, itinerant carpenter. And Alaska had a booming construction industry at this time in the 60s. And he had gotten a good job as a foreman for the Alaskan Housing Authority. So he was like, sweet, we're leaving California, moving the family up here. I got this great gig.
And if they're trying to like expand, you know, the buildings in
They
this
haven't
area.
been a state. They just became a state.
Yeah, so
So
he's
now they're
getting in-
building.
He's getting in while the growth is happening.
Yeah, it's a good job. Still, this move is a really drastic change for the family, and Butch is a teenager,
Yeah.
and he struggled to fit in this strange new environment. So back in California, he was already struggling in school. He didn't get very good grades. He wasn't considered a troublemaker. Like, he didn't, like, act out or, you know, whatever. He wasn't, like, causing mayhem. He just was kind of disinterested in school and had performed poorly on a couple IQ tests and was getting pretty lackluster grades.
Yeah.
So he dropped out at 16, but he decided to work towards his high school equivalency degree, basically like a GED,
GD, yeah.
once they moved to Alaska. So actually this was going to be like a good thing for him.
Fresh
It was
start.
Fresh start. He's got nothing else to do up there. He's going to try to work towards that high school degree.
Commit to his studies.
Right. So for Christmas 1969, Butch's dad bought him his first rifle. This was a lever action Winchester 30-30, whatever
You'll
the
shoot
fuck
your
that
eye out.
means.
Shoot your eye out.
Yeah.
A 30-30 comes up in my case too.
Okay.
OMG.
So Butch had experience, like some hunting experience in California. He mainly had hunted rabbits, just kind of as like a hobby.
Little critters.
Yeah. But now Al wanted his son to be able to take advantage of all that the Alaskan wilderness had to offer and try his hand at big game hunting, namely caribou.
Oh.
Because wouldn't that be fun and interesting to try?
Sure.
So he gets this rifle for Christmas from his dad. And then 1 month later, Butch is sent off on a big hunting expedition. This is part of his gift from his dad. along with 3 local Inupiaq men, Freddie Jackson, Oscar Henry, and Clarence Arnold, who would serve as guides for the expedition because they were local to the area and actually knew what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
Sure.
You can't just decide you're going to go hunt caribou.
No.
Because you got a new gun.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no. You can't just like go solo. You like, especially they did not.
You'll die.
He didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Butch's dad is not on the trip with them, which I'm assuming was because he had to work in Anchorage and couldn't take the time off. Maybe he
Sure.
was planning on joining later on. It's a little bit unclear. I read some articles that made it sound like this was going to be some sort of father-son bonding experience. But then when I dug more into it, it was like, wait, no, his dad is not on this trip.
So the dad, commuted to Anchorage? Aren't they quite a ways from Anchorage?
Yeah, it sounds like his dad was mostly working in Anchorage, but the family is in Kiana. So I don't have all the details, but yes.
Okay.
Undoubtedly, though, Butch's father saw this as a chance to boost the sullen teenagers' spirits. It was going to be this like fun,
Sure.
big Alaska
Exciting
trip.
adventure.
Yeah.
Coming of age.
Coming of age trip. But what should have been this fun opportunity morphed into a tragic and bizarre ordeal.
Oh,
I
dear.
love tragic and bizarre.
Oh, God.
So on January 25th, 1970, a hired pilot flying a local doctor who was on a wolf hunting trip spotted a man standing in the middle of the frozen tundra below, waving his hands over his head in distress.
Oh, scary.
Well, actually, at first, the man on the tundra wasn't moving, and the pilot
Maybe
and the
noticed
doctor...
plane and
Yeah, exactly. The pilot and the doctor almost shot at him because they were hunting wolves, and they just saw this dark speck, and they thought it must be a wolf.
oh, God. Okay.
Can you imagine?
Good thing he waved.
Well,
Jesus.
yeah. So then so they almost shot him thinking he was a wolf, and then he saw the plane, and then he started waving his arms, and then they were like, "Oh shit, it's a person!
Yeah.
Like, what is someone doing there?" So it was Butch Johnson. He was quite literally in the middle of nowhere,
Alone?
alone,
Ooh.
miles from any sign of civilization.
Oh, God.
Don't forget, it's January.
Yeah, it's not just winter. It's like brutal winter.
It's
Dang.
January in the Arctic.
Yeah.
The sun is only out for maybe 4 to 5 hours per day this time of year. It was 50 below zero.
Jesus. Sounds like Minneapolis, am I right?
Right? Blustery.
So blustery.
With a, quote, dense ice fog in low-lying areas.
I'm good.
Love an ice fog.
I'll stay in the cabin.
An
Thanks.
ice fog.
I can't.
Jesus.
So the pilot, a man named Harold Lai, made an emergency landing, and then he and the doctor, Dr. Ray Lang, no relation,
As far as you know.
as far as I know, helped Butch get into the small plane. They noticed immediately that the boy's clothes were spattered with blood.
Oh, God.
Uh-oh.
He clambered in, and then he told them a haunting tale.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Butch recounted how the night before, a stranger had come into their hunting camp and murdered all 3 Inupiaq men, like all of the guides that he was with.
Weird.
Okay.
This is Kenyon and I always do this thing where we don't cover the same case, but they have creepy connections, and I'm feeling it right now.
Somehow, the unarmed Butch had managed to escape and had been running all night, terrified that the killer was still following him, and he was just hoping to make it across the tundra alone all the way back to Kiana for help.
Doesn't add up. Also, even if you're in a plane, don't pick up hitchhikers.
Pick up this hitchhiker.
As soon as the 19-year-old finished telling his story, he passed out, utterly exhausted. So now he is sound asleep in the back of this plane. Harold, the pilot, flew back towards Kiana, but he and Dr. Lang were uneasy. Clearly something horrible had happened because this kid is out alone, covered in blood, whatever. And yet, there was something about Butch's story that didn't ring true to either of them.
He's a catfish.
How
It ain't
far?
right.
How far from Kiana were they?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it was definitely less than a day's snowmobile ride because they had left and gone out to the hunting camp on snowmobiles the day before.
Okay. So it wasn't like hundreds of miles.
No, but still would have been quite a
trek.
walk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not impossible, I guess. I don't know.
Clearly not, because he did it.
Well, he didn't make it all the way back.
Well, not
but
all the way back, but he
it
was
wouldn't. It's
in
not
the
like
process.
it's not like he's like, I just have to cross Siberia. You know,
Sure.
like it was feasible, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Harold, the pilot, and the doctor are like, this
is sketch.
This is really sketch. And so Harold even surreptitiously grabbed his hatchet from his cargo part of the plane, like from his like emergency kit, and kept it next to him while he flew back, just in case he needed like a weapon on board the plane.
Listen to your gut.
So when they get back to town, they drop off Butch to get checked out by a nurse and rest. And then they immediately notify the state trooper, a man named Bob Boatwright, which is like such a great name for a state trooper.
Yeah, in Alaska.
Yeah. Bob Boatwright.
That guy needs to man a lighthouse.
I would trust Bob Boatwright with my life.
Me too.
I know nothing else about him. So
You don't need to.
that same day, the pilot, Harold, flies back towards the hunting camp, like that Butch had described where it was. And from the plane, he sees the body of one man lying dead outside of a tent in the snow. And this was a chilling confirmation that, at the very least, the boy wasn't making the whole thing up. And
Right,
hadn't just
someone
like
was dead.
there was a hunting camp and someone was dead there. Some shit had gone down. But by this point, it's almost dark and it's not safe for the pilot to land. So he turns around and flies back to Kiana. The next day, Bob Boatwright, my real father, and
I am claiming it. He is my real father.
Kenyon Boatwright.
Kenyon Boatwright.
and Kotzebue Chief of Police William Stevens go to the clinic to check on Butch and interview him because he's like recovering,
Coming to.
Yeah, fluids and heat and whatever. Then at daybreak, they fly to the hunting camp to investigate. So
I picture Butch at the chalet post fiasco with his hot chocolate
With his
and his
cocoa.
ruddy
His cocoa.
cheeks and his hat, his cute outfit,
his braids,
Yeah.
his braids,
God
his
bless him.
Fair Isle sweater.
cable knit.
Good for him. He's
lots
earned
of
it.
toggles. So then when the sun finally comes up, because again, it's only out for like 4 to 5 hours a day. It's not like the sun rises at 6 a.m., whatever.
Right.
So while it's still dark when they can't fly, they interview him. Then the sun finally rises and they can finally fly out to the hunting camp and investigate. So the crime scene is gruesome and chaotic. First off, it's a fucking hunting camp. So there are gear and rifles and
Million
shell
weapons.
casings and weapons and knives for gutting the animal. Like, there's
Yeah.
shit everywhere.
Oops, all murder weapons.
Yeah, there's blood. Some of it's animal, some of it's human.
Jeez, clean up.
Not to mention several gutted caribou all strung up around the place. Still, a pretty clear picture of the crime began to coalesce for the investigators. 43-year-old Freddie Jackson was lying face down in front of the tent. He was the one that the pilot had seen from the air.
Okay.
He'd been shot multiple times, first, as the blood trail indicated, inside the tent. And then as he stumbled outside, he was shot at least 2 more times. And then
And was he
fell
a
dead.
guide? Because he's considerably older than Butch.
All of the 3 victims are Inupiaq men and the guides.
Okay. So it was 3 guides and only Butch?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And then possibly this stranger.
Butch, the like 16-year-old.
Yeah. I just figured
19,
maybe there would be other young men on this trip with these
Right.
guides, but it's just him. Okay.
Yeah. Clarence Arnold, 39, was face down on the floor inside the tent. 64-year-old Oscar Henry Sr.'s body was in the back of the tent. In addition to being shot, he had been hit in the head several times with a heavy object.
Ooh.
There were bullet holes going through the tent and footprints going all the way around it, which indicated that the shooter had basically circled the outside of the tent while shooting into it.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah. And then when Freddie Jackson emerged wounded, the shooter shot him again until he went down. And then I guess, and the investigators, I think, determined that the killer then entered the tent to make sure that the other men were dead after Freddie Jackson wasn't dead, clearly.
Yep.
And then possibly struck Oscar Henry Sr. over the head with something just to be safe and make sure there were no witnesses.
Okay.
Or that they were all dead, basically.
Right.
So he just hit him for good measure.
Yeah.
Well, just maybe he wasn't dead from the shooting and now it's close range and whatever weapon you're using. I don't know. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So by the time Boatwright and Stevens got back to Kiana that evening, word about the shocking murders had already spread throughout the tight-knit community, with suspicion already falling squarely on the lone survivor, Butch. So the 3 Inupiaq victims were all well-liked in the village, but nobody knew this outsider, this like white teenager, like
From California.
From California. He had just come from nowhere.
Yeah.
And like,
No,
what
it's
the
no
fuck?
wonder they don't trust. They're not taking his story at face value.
Yeah, and these 3 guides, like their job is to like go out into the wilderness.
Right. They
and
can
hunt.
hold their own.
Yeah. So like, what the fuck? This came out of nowhere. Also, like 4 guys go into a tent and only 1 comes out.
Yeah, it's not looking normal.
Yeah.
And if like all these people were so thoroughly made sure to be killed and this kid gets away,
Right.
it's like, it's not adding up.
This kid with like no skills.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Was
Yeah.
he like
Eh.
taking
like
a
you're-
poop in the woods?
Right.
Right. So there's also a language barrier between Butch and the investigators and then the victims' Inupiaq loved ones because they
Butch and everyone else.
Yeah.
Butch only speaks English.
Yeah.
Right.
So safe to say tensions were high.
Not looking-
Boatwright and Stevens knew that they needed a community liaison officer and to like prevent shit going totally off the rails. And so they requested help from State Trooper Lori Skirch. Who was
Nailed
the
it.
first Inupiaq trooper and was actually from Kiana. So, like, could not have found a better community liaison officer, basically. So they're like, okay, thank God we've got that locked down. Now, after looking at the crime scene, Butch is officially a person of interest. And he's interviewed again. And this time, though, his father is present. So Butch is more forthcoming this time around with details. He says that on January 23rd, he left Kiana on a snowmobile with Freddie Jackson. So Freddie's driving and he's literally just holding on to him. Clarence Arnold and Oscar Henry were already at the campsite and they were already like setting up the tent. The following morning, the hunters saw a group of caribou and they sped towards them in the snowmobiles. And Butch is again riding on the back of Freddie's sled, just holding on. But in this chase to get to the caribou, Butch fell off the snowmobile.
Oh dear. Okay.
And rather than stopping the hunt to turn around and get him back on the snowmobile, which would have basically meant that
They lose the whole day.
they'd lose the whole
and all their game. Yeah.
Yeah. The 3 men continued on chasing the caribou because I think they were really close to getting it. So
Yeah, and it's like then we can come back and get him, and he knows what to do out here. He's gonna be okay. It's
or
like that's
just
kind of
like
like
hang
protocol.
tight.
Yeah.
Like you just like wait there. We'll be right back.
Right.
We don't want to lose the kill to get
Can't really blame them.
right.
Well, that was probably they've clearly
Protocol.
hunted together before. That was probably their protocol. Yeah.
But he didn't necessarily know that.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm assuming they plan to pick him back up after the successful kill, but also he didn't necessarily know that that was their intention. In his mind, he's a 19-year-old and he falls off the snowmobile, so he's embarrassed.
And the language barrier.
And the language barrier.
Okay.
And then they fucking don't stop.
Come back. Mhm.
And
or don't stop, yeah.
yeah. And he's just like out on the tundra.
Freaking out.
Yeah. So he ended up walking in the direction that they'd sped off in. And by the time he reached them, they had just caught the caribou, so they hadn't had time to turn around yet. Mm-hmm. And he was pissed.
Yeah.
Get over yourself.
Well, he just felt that they had just abandoned him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Which I can't really, like, fault him for freaking out and being upset, but obviously don't murder a bunch of people.
Right.
Right.
It's like there are
Also,
ways
like,
of dealing with it.
Probably half of the reason of this for this trip wasn't necessarily killing the caribou. It was like dressing it and doing all this, you know, all the other stuff involved in hunting. It's not all just the killing
I don't
part.
think he was upset about missing the
Missing
kill.
out.
He was
Yeah.
just upset about
Being left.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
was
what
embarrassed.
I imagine. Yeah.
But according to Butch, he eventually cooled off. They all have dinner. And then another Inupiaq man, a different Clarence. So there's one Clarence Arnold is one of the victims. But briefly, another guy comes, and his name is Clarence Wood. Mm-hmm. And he joins them for dinner, but then he doesn't stay at the campsite. He leaves. And then the original group go to bed. But then Butch repeats the story about someone pulling up on a snowmobile and shooting, and he claimed that he was still in the tent when the first shots were fired, but he managed to escape and hid in some nearby bushes. Mm-hmm. And he said that the killer was a total stranger. It wasn't Clarence Wood, and even though it was a stranger, he said he would be able to identify him, even though he was like running for his life outside of the tent and hiding in bushes, and it was nighttime.
And it was dark. And he doesn't know anybody else anyway.
Right.
Yep. But he was like, yeah, I could identify him. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, tensions in the village are mounting, and there's suddenly hostility not just towards Butch and his father, the newcomers, but also towards Kiana's other few white residents, because it was just like spiraling and people were like taking sides. Mm-hmm. So investigators recognize the situation, and they send the boy and his father to Anchorage for further questioning, just to kind of diffuse the situation.
Yeah,
and
get them out of town.
there. They don't want
Yeah.
anybody like, you know, they
Right.
don't want
Take
any
vigilante justice.
Right. Mm-hmm. So investigators then talked to Clarence Wood, the dinner visitor, who reiterated how mad Butch had been after being left after he fell off the sled. Mm-hmm. And he said that like the Inupiaq hunters were just talking to each other in
Their language.
which I think is Yupik. Mm-hmm. And Butch was maybe like feeling like they were talking about him if they were like talking and he couldn't understand them, and then they were like laughing. Mm-hmm. He said that Butch was like really sullen and didn't like just talk to anybody and was just kind of like sitting by himself. Mm-hmm.
Very teenagery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in Anchorage, Butch was interviewed for a third time, this time by new investigators, Trooper Sergeant Tom Anderson, Corporal Dean Bivens, and Sergeant Bill Nix. His father was again present for these new interviews. Bill Nix played the bad cop role in the interrogation, and he basically just called Butch a liar a bunch and like demanded that he start telling the truth. And this worked because it took just minutes for these new troopers to break Butch down and get him
Sang
to
like a canary.
This kid is an idiot.
He's a kid.
I know. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
get him to confess that there was no stranger and that he had, in fact, murdered all three men.
Mm-hmm.
Over being embarrassed for falling off the sled.
Mm-hmm.
The boy didn't offer much in terms of motive. He just described how in the middle of the night he'd gotten up, exited the tent to pee, then grabbed a rifle and emptied it into the tent.
Wow.
Then Freddie came out and Butch grabbed a second rifle and shot him dead. Butch then tried to get away with one of the snowmobiles, but couldn't get it started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So instead...
Cue the Benny Hill theme.
Yeah. So instead, he grabbed yet another rifle and started walking. But even this new confession didn't seem quite right to investigators based on evidence at the scene. The troopers determined that things had happened just a little bit differently.
I'm actually impressed that they even continued to look deeper into this when so often we hear about investigators who just go, okay, confession, we're done.
Well,
Don't need any more information.
I think they just wanted the facts, even though I don't think it materially really changed like the sentencing or whatever.
But I think that's the way that you should be fucking doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that this is happening.
Right. So they think that after Butch had fired into the tent, both Freddie and Oscar had survived. But when Butch heard Freddie trying to start the snowmobile, he ran back and shot him. Then he saw that Oscar was still alive, so he beat him in the head with the butt of his rifle. And then he weirdly buried that rifle, but they found it later.
He is just so disorganized and freaking out at this point.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
Yeah, it's fucking pathetic. And these poor people fucking all lost their lives because of his bullshit.
Yep. So Butch's trial started 1 year after the murders in January of 1971, which is also the coldest temp on record. Was in
Coldfoot.
January 1971.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Psychiatrist J. Ray Langdon, no relation, testified.
You just love that.
I love getting Amanda like that with those callbacks.
You're such a bit. You always get me when I get a sip in my mouth, too. And it's red wine. It's like not good to snort. God.
So the psychiatrist testified for the defense, saying that Butch had suffered a psychotic lapse and was, quote, divorced from reality at the time of the murders. During his psychiatric assessments, Butch had talked at length about how disturbing it had been watching the Inupiaq hunters butcher and dress their kill, especially when they cut open a female caribou and there was an unborn calf inside the carcass.
Okay.
So he just was like really freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, that would be traumatic, but you're you're on a hunting
I
trip.
don't know what you expected.
Langdon and another psychiatrist, Barbara Ure, said that the following things contributed to Butch's psychotic break. The extreme cold weather, which he was not used to or prepared for. The language barrier with the Inupiaqs, who spoke their native Yupik language, leaving Butch to feel left out / possibly paranoid that they were essentially shit-talking about him. And the blood and carnage of the caribou hunt, because, again, he had only ever hunted rabbits before. Oh, and also, kind of important fact, which, like, doesn't come up in a lot of the coverage of this, but, like, is essential, is that Butch had a history of mental illness, including schizophrenia.
Oh, there's that.
Which was worsened under stress.
Sure. Okay.
So his father thought that time in the wilderness would help improve his self-confidence.
Oh, my dear. No, he needs therapy and medication. And not a highly traumatic and stressful getaway with
Outward bound.
with no family or friends present who understand his diagnosis and can assist him when he's feeling stressed and can even really communicate
tether him
with
to
him and tether him to reality. Fucking A.
Yeah. The Inupiaq hunters spoke English. They just
of course.
preferred amongst themselves to speak their own language, like anyone would. Yeah.
Of course. But that's like, I'm not blaming them for anything. It's just they put the dad sent this boy woefully unprepared.
Exactly.
On a trip that would be, I think, intense for even a skilled hunter, not a 19-year-old transplant from California who just got his first fucking gun.
Yep.
Like,
It was
what?
too much.
With alone. Just him and these older guides. Dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
So the psychiatrists testified, quote, he was already insecure as to who he was. Having lost contact with his culture and his geography, he felt displaced. He had absolutely no preparation for this caribou hunt. He went from 0 to 60.
To 60,000.
Yeah.
To, we're cleaning and dressing and, a pregnant caribou. Oh my God. I'd be freaking out.
Freaking out. Still, it's 1971, and the Judge C.J. Okipinti, is not here for the temporary insanity defense.
Sure.
Butch is found guilty of 3 counts of second-degree murder. He is sentenced to life in prison without a set date of when he would be eligible for parole, but the judge also ordered that he be given psychiatric treatment while in prison. Butch ended up serving most of his time in his native California, which I don't know why. Maybe
Probably
they just
good for him, though.
better for him.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some kind of petition
or stipulation of his sentencing, or
I don't know, or maybe they just didn't have like
space and
enough
resources.
facilities in Alaska at the time, which is possible.
Well, when you go to prison, you're moved around the country.
Yeah.
So
Right.
maybe they just saw an opening in California and were like, let's get him in there.
Yeah. So he's sentenced to life in prison without a set date for parole. Shockingly, he is released on parole after serving just 4 years,
Wow. That's
which I'm sure contributes, like the fact that his 3 victims were indigenous, I'm sure is part of that. I mean, he's 19. I think he did have a psychotic break. I think he did probably need, but like still, he murdered 3 people.
Right. You can appreciate the extenuating circumstances and still recognize the like blatant privilege that is at play.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality.
Yeah. If he had murdered 3 white women
Yep.
in
Absolutely
Kiana,
not 4 years.
Yeah. No.
Exactly.
So after his release, Norman Butch Johnson stayed in California the rest of his life. He got married. He had 2 kids. He had a totally like normal life after this. When he died in 2017 at the age of 68, his obituary, not surprisingly, did not mention anything about the murders. It says euphemistically, quote, at a young age, he went to live with his parents in Anchorage, Alaska. After a short stay, he moved back to California where he met the love of his life.
After a short stay.
Brief. Why was it brief?
Why? Why was it brief?
And that is my case.
Wow.
Weird.
That is really fucking weird.
I got a lot of my info. I mean, obviously, all my sources will be on the blog as they always are, but I got a lot of my info from a book by Tom Brennan called Murder at 40 Below, True Crime Stories from Alaska.
Nice.
It's also just such a sad commentary on like, and I mean, we still have a long way to go now, but this was a mental health crisis in the 60s. You know, I'm not condoning what this kid did by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly did not have the resources at his disposal to properly manage his condition.
Especially not in that rural of an area.
And then he was sent into extremely stressful circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's just so fucking senseless and heartbreaking. And this could have been avoided in so many ways.
Let's not gift teenagers rifles.
Let's
just not do it.
It's just like...
Or just like push you into this new culture so suddenly.
And with no cultural competence or really any competence even over your own mental health struggles that are completely valid. Yeah.
He had never even met the 3 guides before.
No.
It was a little much. It was much.
It was very much.
It was very much.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's so fucking sad.
Yep.
Great.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Sponsors?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Iditarod.com.
Frogbogs.com.
There is nothing worse than suffering with an uncomfortable bra. And honestly, any time of year, okay? And thankfully, Honeylove has revolutionized the bra game. You can upgrade from traditional bras that use uncomfortable underwire. It's 2023, people.
Yeah.
Never again. We're
Grow
not
up.
going back.
Positively
Yeah, grow up.
medieval.
Bulky fabrics that trap heat. Torture devices.
Anachronistic.
Life is too short.
Yeah, way too short. But Honeylove's bras feature supportive bonding that eliminates the need for underwire without sacrificing lift. Plus, they're made with fabric that is so soft, it feels like a second skin. You'll immediately feel and see the difference. It is so next level comfortable. You will forget you're wearing it. I have fallen asleep in mine, for real.
Same.
And for a limited time only, you can get Honeylove on sale. You can get 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link, honeylove.com/wine. So you support our show and check them out at honeylove.com/wine. Tell us more, Kenyon.
Oh, there's so much to say. If you're tired of maybe bras that like bulge in the back or on the sides.
Oh, the sides.
Yeah, that was always a problem for me. Not with Honeylove. Honeylove's bras are designed with back smoothing fabric to prevent that bra bulge. Just keep you smooth in your shirts.
High and tight, baby.
They also have a relaxed lounge bra, which I highly recommend. It is their V bra. It offers the support of a traditional bra, but without, like we said, the underwire. I can't do that anymore.
No. That's a young girl's game.
It is a naive girl's game.
Yeah.
So this V bra is designed to lift and separate with molded cups, so it doesn't give you that like uniboob effect. It's like it's how you're supposed to look. And it doesn't stop there. Honey Love has more than just bras. They have incredibly comfortable shapewear.
Yeah.
They have great tanks. I have some of their tanks that I wear like for undershirts. And they have amazing leggings for everyday support.
They do.
Treat yourself to the best shapewear on the market and get 20% off at honeylove.com/wine, WINE. Use our exclusive link and get 20% off. honeylove.com/wine. Cinched, snatched, and lifted. It is hot person season. Thanks to Honey Love. And treat your babies.
Treat them.
Treat your bubbies.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So my case this week is one of Alaskan legend, but also has like certainly nuggets of truth.
Get it?
Truth.
Golden nuggets.
Gold nuggets.
And frankly feels like a good for her moment, but we'll get to it. So in the early 1900s, the Alaskan wilderness, as we know, was still home to indigenous communities, and the Alaskan gold rush was drawing the whites to the area in a giant line that Lucy showed us earlier.
Love it.
A giant anthill line.
Yep. And in the specific area that we are in, for my case, they were pretty bummed to find that gold was not plentiful, but trapping certainly was. And now we had settlers encroaching on territory in the Bristol Bay watershed and Kuskokwim River that had been held by the Yupik peoples for generations. Mm-hmm. It's also worth noting that around this time, Spanish flu was like petering out, but it was still very much a thing. Mm-hmm. And the risk of infection by these settlers to the indigenous population was extremely high.
Yeah.
And so we can only imagine that there were plenty of feelings about these new colonizing neighbors moving in and profiting off of their land.
Yeah.
In mass numbers at this point.
Ugh.
Yep.
Build a wall.
Yep. Yes, literally. So enter Klutuk, a Yupik man who was a formidable presence. He had land in the Bristol Bay watershed, and he made his living as a trapper and fisherman on the land and was not down with trespassers, white or otherwise. Like, did not want anybody fucking with his shit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not in my backyard.
Yep. So this is where the line between true crime and legend really starts to blur. Like, this was a real person.
Blur it, baby. Blur it.
Blur it. This was a real person who, as like record can show, did kill at least a couple people.
Okay.
How many is totally unknown.
Lots.
And like every fucking
Go with the
report,
bigger number and then double it.
I mean, it's like every number is different. So it's alleged that beginning in 1919, where, quote, it is said his career of crime started by killing 2 natives and announcing he would kill 2 more. Subsequent events indicated that he did not stop at that. From that time until his death, he had an entire upper Nushagak district under his control. After at least one trespasser was dispatched on his land, rumors began to spread of a boogeyman of sorts, a notorious, quote, mad trapper, standing several feet tall, dressed head to toe in furs, and accompanied by a lone black dog.
Several feet tall, meaning tall or not tall?
Like several feet taller than like
4 feet tall.
Okay. It's like, I think we know what they mean.
When my friend Katie was like, someday I just hope to earn 3 figures.
3 figures.
$100?
She was thinking of the 3 figures.
Sure.
6
before
figures.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I love it.
3 figures.
So,
A girl
but it's
can
funny that you
dream.
mentioned this because while he was rumored to be like a towering giant, his eventual, I guess I shouldn't say capture, but like actual reports and sightings of him, and then potentially who they thought he was found dead. We'll get to it. He was confirmed to be more like 5'6" or 5'7" and like 140 pounds.
So me in high school.
Yeah, so like people in this
petite.
day and age like wouldn't even swipe right on him on Tinder because every girl apparently wants everyone to be over 6 feet. Anyway, so the Cusco Times wrote that it was believed that he'd murdered 20 or more people and that, quote, through some system unknown to the whites, he kept himself constantly in touch with what was going on throughout the district. He seemed to know when any man entered his territory, and he resented all such intrusions. Disdaining to use the weapons known to civilization for his own needs, he shot his game with bow and arrow, but he packed a 30-30 rifle for his human prey.
Okay, well, that's like noble as fuck, though, actually.
I know. I'm not honestly upset with Kluchak.
So he
I
just
kind of get it.
He just kind of set himself up as like, I'm the lord of this land.
Yeah, and
now.
leave me
He
the
was-
fuck alone
he
and
was-
stay the fuck off my land and we won't have a problem.
He was
But
a conservationist, really.
pretty much.
Right. But it wasn't, like, he owned some of it, but then it
Yes.
sounded like he kind of spread his wings a little bit.
But he killed the white people to make sure there weren't that many. That's what
I mean, sure.
hunters, conservation hunters say.
he
that
killed
they're doing.
If
basically-
too many white people run amok, they'll starve to death.
To be clear, he's not hunting
That's
white
causing
people.
traffic accident.
Yep.
Jesus fucking Christ. He killed anyone, white or otherwise, who would come onto his land, and it just happened to be fucking white people that were like doing it more. Yeah. So
Okay.
figure it out. So, like I said, while we aren't certain how many individuals died at Klutuk's hand, he certainly struck measurable fear in the area and even deterred industry from being like developed there for a while at the risk of being killed.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to set up shop.
Right. So from outdoorlife.com, quote, the commercial fishery in Bristol Bay was attracting a wave of foreign fishermen and cannery workers to the coast. Further inland, investors were eyeing large mining developments. But besides the wild country providing its own inherent difficulties, the legend of Klutuk was stalling mining development. Sightings of Klutuk showed up from Cook Inlet to the upper Kuskokwim River. If a prospector or trapper disappeared or was murdered, it was immediately blamed on Klutuk. So, like, the numbers...
Definitely becoming, legend. Yeah.
Yes, the numbers got absolutely inflamed because literally anyone that would go missing,
Yeah,
wind
a lot
up
of
dead.
fucking people are gonna
Yes.
die of accidents or
Yes. Freeze to death.
right.
But it was all, it was
Bears.
all Klutuk, blamed on him. He was costing both the territory of Alaska and corporations lots of money. Good for her.
Oh,
So years pass with the looming threat of Klutuk ever present. In 1927, a trapper and fisherman by the name of Andrew Kelovich goes into this area to hunt and trap. And this man knew the legends of Klutuk, but was confident that he could handle himself. And I think, and also just from what I read, possibly the type to be like, hold my beer about such emasculating things as being scared off by threat of murder.
yeah. He wanted to prove himself.
He did. So he rounded up a friend and a guide and went camping along the Nashaguk River in the spring to set traps for small game. Unfortunately for them, they wandered onto Klutuk's land during the trip. One night, the three were huddled around a fire enjoying their catch for the day when Klutuk himself emerged from the darkness flanked by his dog.
The black dog.
The dog, which towered over him.
Yeah. Which towered over his meager
Standing
5'7".
at several feet tall.
Several feet tall. The guide spotted him first and knew full well who he was. And the guide basically is like, yo, we got to get the fuck out of here, and takes off running, followed
It's
closely
also the
by...
wilderness, so it's not like you know when you cross into someone's land. There's not
Right.
like a rope line.
No. So the guide takes off after warning them, like, we got to get out of here. The friend also runs, and they just leave Andrew to face Klutuk alone, who could have run. But he was like, no, I have huge balls. I'm gonna deal with this. So the friend and the guide get all the way back to town. They run to their boat. They get on their boat. They get back to town. They alert whatever minimal authorities in 1927 in this territory, which is probably more like a wake up whatever sheriff is in town and
Colonel Boatwright Sr.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then round up the buddies that are awake or whatever type deal. The next day, they venture back to the campsite in the safety of daylight, only to find Andrew dead with an axe in his back. Klutuk had apparently struck again. Some retellings of the story allude to the fact that Andrew actually went intentionally into Klutuk's territory with the specific purpose of baiting and hunting him.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for Andrew.
No. In this version of the tale, the three men had found Klutuk's camp and attempted to apprehend him, only discovered that their boat that they had taken to get to where they could hike to their campsite was not big enough for all four of them to make the return trip with their game or whatever. So Andrew instructed his friend and their guide to go to town, get a bigger boat, drop off their haul,
We're going to
and
need
come
a bigger
back.
boat.
Yeah, only to return to a dead Andrew and no sign of Klutuk. So while that version of the story can't be confirmed, it's like certainly not outside the realm of possibility. And from what I saw about Andrew, it seems kind of like on brand for him to have been
Or-
like, this legend is bullshit. I'm going to fucking go deal with it.
I
Andrew
ain't
was
scared.
annoying as fuck, and the two friends axed him in the back, and then they were like, let's blame it on Klutuk.
Could
Klutuk
have.
did it weird.
Honestly, if that's what they did, it fucking worked.
Yeah.
So, Territory Authority Officer Frank Wiseman, who went up to the area in January of 1928 to investigate this murder, was called to do so almost right after the murder took place in 1927. But travel to Alaska was so challenging at that time. You can't just like take a flight because it was 1928. Like, yes, there were planes, but it wasn't like
Yeah, there were like barely
booking on
trains up there.
delta.com. Yeah. So it took like months for him to even arrive there. So when he does arrive, he had to use a skilled guide with a team of sled dogs, Iditarod his ass, to conduct the investigation and access the campsite. So after all this time that it takes to even get to Alaska, and then the grueling task of sledding and hiking to the site in the dead of winter, he finds nothing of use
Yeah.
in terms of evidence because they don't have like
damn it.
forensic teams.
Yeah.
So he finds fuck all at this alleged campsite
Yeah.
and just
Dude
goes
got
back.
axed in the back. What do you think? You're months later going to find footprints?
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
Exactly. And regarding footprints, it's
What the
also
hell is
part.
wrong with people?
People are dumb, but it's also part of the legend that Klutuk may have had made himself like mucklucks from the feet of bears that he had trapped or killed,
Cool.
so that he wouldn't leave.
Human
He would stay
footprints.
warm, but he also wouldn't leave human footprints.
How great is that?
I love that.
Yeah, I again, that's just something I read, but there's
I
so
want
much
bear
like
paw
legend
slippers.
around
We're going
this.
with it. We're going with it.
This guy lived in the fucking Alaskan wilderness and thrived off of the land. It
If
wouldn't
Leonardo
surprise me.
DiCaprio can do it,
Who can't?
yeah, Klutuk can do it.
So Officer Wiseman is like, God fucking damn it, goes back to his temporary home in Dillingham, Alaska, where they kind of have this home base town. So, I mean, I can't even fucking imagine going through all of that, getting to this campsite, looking around for 10 minutes and going, yeah, I got nothing. And then just fucking hauling ass back.
This guy just wanted an excuse to go on a little trip.
I mean, he was kind of made to go. They were like, you're the only like territory officer available. You got to go investigate this crime. I don't know how much
You're
you
like, I
wanted
don't
to
know,
do
this
it.
Andrew guy died.
Right. And meanwhile, Klutuk knew the land so well that he could easily evade these like uninitiated white folks who were investigating him and also continue to kill trappers who came too close. So he allegedly took another victim in the spring of 1928, a man named Jack Aho, who had gone into the wilderness to set his own winter traps. But when spring arrived, he never checked in at like the trading posts to sell his winter's worth of game. So people were like, where the fuck is Jack? So Officer Wiseman immediately suspects Klutuk and takes a team to Aho's campsite to investigate. Once again, all they really find are like empty cabins and meaningless remnants of a camper, like some clothing, some cooking utensils, but nothing else that would even really indicate a crime. This guy's just gone. Because Wiseman's team kept coming up empty, reinforcements were sent in 1931 to bolster the investigation. Now, again, keep in mind that we actually don't know how some of these missing trappers died, went missing. We have no idea.
Yeah, it's the Alaskan wilderness. A lot of things can happen.
Yeah, it could be 100 things.
Every death in this area at this point is being attributed to Klutuk, whether there's evidence of that or not.
Right.
They're just like, he fucking did it. So around the time the new team of investigators arrived in Dillingham and they started this investigation, they came upon an abandoned campground consisting of a few empty cabins. And in one of those cabins was the frozen body of a man who I guess fit Klutuk's description. Like, he was an indigenous man. He had a similar stature. He was 4 feet
5'7" tall.
He had, he was wearing the like kind of iconic at that point
Bare
furs.
feet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, which could have accounted for any number of indigenous trappers in that area at the time. But they're like, that's Klutuk. We got him. He died of natural causes.
It's all done. Don't send me out here anymore to investigate shit.
We're fucking over it.
The legend of Klutuk is over. You can set up your businesses now.
Yeah.
Going home.
We can mine for gold now. Everyone's safe. Mm-hmm. But obviously others have called bullshit on this, especially one absolutely problematic character, Fred Hatfield, a grizzled prospector who spent the better part of 20 years as a trapper near Klutuk territory, having moved from Maine to Alaska in 1933 when he was 23 years old. Now, this would be...
smell this man's beard.
Yeah.
Girl, you just wait. He sucks. This would be 2 years after authorities declared Klutuk dead, but Fred is like, no, I'm the self-proclaimed killer of Klutuk. Fuck you. So at 81 years old in 1991, Fred is enjoying his retirement in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he speaks...
Klutuk sneaks up behind him
I
with an
fucking
axe.
wish. Oh my God, I wish. He gives
You're
an
on my
interview.
territory.
Yep.
It extends to North Carolina now, bitch.
It's all mine. God bless him. He had like written a book about that's like, pretty popular among fucking like old white men who like to read about the Alaskan wilderness. But he'd written a book about like
My
his
dad.
time prospecting.
Your
He
dad
might have read
owns
it.
it.
He might have.
Check Sean's shelf.
And he does mention Klutuk and like his claims that he took care of Klutuk, etc. So he is in Charlotte, North Carolina. He gives an interview to the press about his time in Alaska. So to round out my segment, I'm going to read excerpts from an article by Jerry Bledsoe from Greensboro.com because the quotes from Fred Hatfield
Are
unhinged. Okay. During those years, he survived attacks by grizzly bears and dangerous encounters with ice and snow.
We're talking about Klutuk.
We're talking about Fred. Fred is he.
He's reminiscing. It's his memoir.
He watched a partner go insane, saw many men killed, and killed one himself with careful premeditation.
Put Fred in jail. He's
The man-
confessing.
I know, right? The man Hatfield claims to have killed was called Klutuk, a murderer of almost mythical proportions who roamed the Tikchik Lakes area for years, robbing and killing white trappers and natives alike. Hatfield says that Klutuk stalked him for 2 years before he set a trap for him when he departed the lake country for the summer of 1938. So again, by 1938, allegedly Klutuk had been dead for like 5+ years, leaving behind a can of tea and a jar of sugar laced with strychnine that he just knew Klutuk would steal.
Okay.
He returned a few months later, he says, to find the sugar jar opened and the murderer's skeletal remains a short distance from his cabin.
So he was paranoid. He poisoned his own thing, left it out, and literally laid a trap for
Someone.
Anyone.
A human.
Anyone. And it could have been anybody. But an article in the October issue of Alaska Magazine calls Hatfield's account into question. The author, Tom Bell, an Anchorage newspaper reporter, quotes other trappers who say Klutuk died before Hatfield even arrived in Alaska, a claim supported by an old newspaper clipping. And now I will be using my best senile old white man voice to represent Fred Hatfield. I gotta get into character. I knew those boys he interviewed, Hatfield says of the article. I don't know why in hell he didn't interview any men. So he's like discrediting this
Oh my
reporter who's like, it
God.
wasn't Fred. It was that guy was gone a long time ago.
Enough with these young
These boys,
whippersnappers.
you don't know what I've seen.
Where's my social security?
My social security card. As far as I'm concerned, the guy I killed was going to cut my throat. Sir, you laid a trap and left. And then came back months later. And I didn't give a damn who it was, Hatfield says. I couldn't care less. I know it was Clutuck. Clutuck always wore bear claw mucklucks made out of the hind feet of a grizzly bear. That's what this boy had on when I found him, so I guess it was Clutuck. I don't give a damn anyway.
I love how he just undermines his own story.
All in the same breath in the same interview.
Poisoned a stranger.
Poisoned a stranger and never saw a day in court for it. Wrote a book about it.
Oh my God.
Alaska has no statute of limitations on murder, and a prosecutor has asked for a state police investigation of the killing. Hatfield scoffs at that. Investigate what? You defend your life, they could fly at it. That's just a bunch of crap. You'd think the young guys would go in there and trap, he says. The place is alive with Martin, but they don't. People don't go out and do things anymore, damn it. I guess they're just afraid of something. Too bad. I'm too damn old or I'd go back in there. God, if I was 20 years younger, I'd be back in there now. God damn it, when you lose your youth, you've lost everything, you know?
Go to bed.
That's a real...
That is
Oh my God.
That is a
Nobody
quote.
hunts the marten anymore. If I was young and in my 60s, I'd go
People
back.
don't get I was 81. If I was 20 years younger, people don't go out and do things anymore.
They're all on their boards.
They're all on their hoverboards. Playing their
That's
video
what my
games.
grandpa called my mom's iPad. Look that up on your board.
On your board.
Puppy!
So now
They're
my
all on their
whole
computer
family
boards.
calls them boards.
That's
now.
fucking amazing.
Driving their vehicles.
What does your
Driving
board
their space
say?
cars and consulting their computer boards. God damn it. This is a senile old murderer who poisoned probably an innocent indigenous person or trapper or
Someone
hunter.
of small stature. This was probably a child who was trying to like sneak some sugar and just got
but
poisoned.
Clutuck could be the only person to ever make boots out of bare feet.
Yeah. It makes sense to make boots out of bare feet.
It really does.
Also,
Anyway.
he's probably full of shit.
He's absolutely full of shit. And despite the fact that his quotes are gold, he is, not shockingly at all, deeply problematic. And in the article, it talked about how, like, in his home where the reporter was conducting this interview, he had, like, proudly displayed photos of himself, basically desecrating and, like, holding up as trophies a mass grave of indigenous Alaskans who had been slaughtered by, like, invaders when Russian outposts were being built in the area. And so this guy's like
In
a
Russian
fucking,
America.
Yeah. So this guy's like a piece of shit. Like,
Jesus Christ.
he says in his own quote, like, I don't care who it was, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I just know that, like, I killed an indigenous person, they were gonna cut my throat. Like, fuck you, you weren't even there. You
wanted
literally
to steal
laid a
my
trap.
sugar
Yeah,
that I
you laid a
I'd
trap.
left there for months and totally abandoned.
Well, he left it there
God.
on purpose, full of strychnine. So he left a fucking trap and wasn't, like,
It's not
defending
even stealing
himself
anymore. It's just
No.
you left some shit out.
It's a total
this-
psycho.
I mean, I think he's long dead now because he was 81 in 1991. So, like, bye. But
If I
This-
was 50 years younger.
he won't just go out and do things anymore. So, yeah, regardless of who killed Clutuck or who Clutuck even was responsible for killing himself, the attacks did seem to end around, like, the early to mid 30s when the investigators had claimed to have found his remains in a cabin.
Okay.
So, you know, some could attribute this to the like end of the attacks, to like the growing population and growth of industry in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Some could attribute it to Clutuck dying of natural causes or being killed. Frankly, we don't know. And we don't even know Like, you know, this man was not in any kind, when he was born, he wasn't entered into any kind of like federal record. He was an indigenous person born and raised on that land.
It also could have just been all fucking not the existence of Klutuk, but like if you went back and looked at statistics, if they had them for like, you know, deaths per capita or whatever, like it could have just been not an actual uptick in deaths at all and just legend.
Yeah, exactly. And we just don't know. Like, we know that this person existed, but looking at this story, it's much more likely that there, like, was an encounter and that this person was rightfully protective of their land and then was just made into this legendary boogeyman who was responsible for every fucking death or disappearance in that area, even if it had absolutely nothing to do with him and likely had absolutely nothing to do with him.
I'm choosing to think of him as a conservationist.
I fucking am all about it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. So anyway, that's
Alaska.
my case. I just thought that was very interesting.
Wild place. Well done, us.
Yeah. We did it.
Talk to you next week.
Oh, thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Wine and Crime. Our cover art is by Kala Yip, music by Phil Young and Corey Wendell, editing by Jonathan Camp. Check out our website and blog at wineandcrimepodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wine and Crime Pod. If you have questions, answers, or recommendations to share, email us at wineandcrimepodcast@gmail.com. Episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, basically wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And if you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It is the best way to spread the word. If you'd like to show your support, visit our Patreon page to keep this podcast and the wine flowing. Cheers!